Hey there, I'm Emma from mmmEnglish. Today's pronunciation lesson is all about some extremely common English words, like this word. And actually this word, like all the others that I'm going to share today, has more than just one meaning. It can be more than one type of word. It can be a verb and a noun. So, of course, a verb and a noun, the meaning is different, and interestingly, the pronunciation is different. I mean, which really is quite annoying. But we're going to take a look at some of these different words and learn some cool tricks so that you know how to pronounce them correctly. So you ready to dive in? So let's start nice and simple with this word. Now there's actually two ways to pronounce this word. Do you know them? Do you know them already? We have tear and tear. Tear, 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 tear. Can you hear the different vowel sounds that I'm using in each word? But now I want you to try saying it out loud, and I want you to listen to make sure that there's a difference in the vowel sounds that you're using. Tear, tear. Nice. I always like to remember that tear comes down near your ear, and when you hold something up to tear it, you're holding it up in the air, right? A little reminder there. So practice with me. A tear rolled down his cheek as he saw his dad tear up his favorite book. Your turn. Nice. Now there are some clues in this sentence that help us to know which word is a noun and which one is a verb. So articles are always in front of nouns. And when we have a subject, dad, and an object, our favorite book, we know that this must be a verb, right? We need it to complete the clause in the sentence. So I want you to keep looking for these clues as we go through this lesson, okay? Keep looking for the types of words in each sentence as a clue for how to pronounce it. So as a noun, this is a type of bird, right? And it's pronounced dove. Dove. It's that short vowel sound. Dove. But this word is also a verb. It's the past tense of dive, dove. And that's a diphthong vowel sound, the O sound. It's the same sound that you hear in go and no. He dove into the pool. So let's see if we can put those two words together in a sentence. Might be a little tricky. Miraculously, the dove dove into the river to escape the cat. Your turn. I don't know about you, but I've never seen a dove dive into a river, but there you go. That's what practice at mmmEnglish is all about. So how about this one? Do you know the different ways to pronounce this word? I think you probably know the verb, to lead, right? Lead. And you really need to try and make that long vowel sound there. E. E. Make that sound too short. It'll sound like lid. Now, there are quite a few different uses for this verb, so I'm going to give you a few different examples. You lead the way. Last time I checked, the green team was leading the race. And I asked Sarah to lead this project for us. So the verb form is probably the most common way that you'll come across it, right? You'll hear it pronounced lead often. But lead is also a metal. It's a noun. And so when it's used this way, the pronunciation is lead. And it used to be really commonly used in pipes and construction until people started realizing that it was actually poisoning us. Oh, and it's also the dark part inside a pencil. That's also called lead, a lead pencil. And exposure to lead can lead to serious health problems. He was asked to lead the children off the stage. Now, one of the trickiest things here is trying to work out when to pronounce it as a verb and when to pronounce it as a noun. So usually we look at the words around it to give us a clue to try and work out what type of word it is. But look here, we've got the preposition to coming before led or lead in both examples. We have exposed to led and he was asked to lead. So it's not always as simple as it seems. Now this one, I know you know. What are the two different ways to pronounce this word? And it's got nothing to do with the vowel sound. It's actually the consonant sound. Close, close, that z voiced consonant sound. This is when we, close a door or we close the shop early. But it can also be an adjective as well. And when it's an adjective, we pronounce it as close to say that something is nearby or a short distance away. It's close. And this is the unvoiced sound, exactly the same mouth and tongue position as the z sound, but s. It's made with air pushing through our mouths. S, z. Can you please close the door? Close the door. Close the... Sounds a bit odd, doesn't it? Because it's not the right word. Although you live close by, you still need to close the front door and lock up before you leave. So we're getting a little trickier now. Do you know the two different ways to pronounce this word? As a noun, this is an injury, right? Especially when you cut your skin. So it can be quite serious, right? And it's pronounced wound with that long oo sound. Wound, wound. And this is the same sound that's used in the adjective wounded, wounded. So we would say, the soldier was wounded on the battlefield. But this is also a verb. It's the past tense of wind. Wound. Ow. Again, it's that diphthong sound. Ow. And it's the same sound that you hear in words like flower and frown. So it's wound. He had wound up the window just as it started to rain. Now let's put them together in a sentence. Sam wound the belt tightly around his leg to stop the blood flowing from the open wound. So first things first, we are not talking about this, right? At least we know these are different words because they're spelt differently. But did you know that this word can actually be a verb and a noun? And the pronunciation is different when we're using each type of word. And it's all in the syllable stress. We have desert, data, desert. This is, an area of land that doesn't have a lot of water. Then we've got the verb desert, dessert, da-da. Exactly like dessert, right? But it means to leave someone alone and to abandon them in the middle of nowhere. I'm not going to desert you in the middle of the desert. So again, we've got a noun and a verb to consider here. An object is a thing, right? The stress is on the first syllable. But the verb object means to be opposed to something, using words, and it's quite a formal verb. Will you object if I move the object from the table? That is a really random sentence. So just to mix things up a little bit here, this word can be a noun and an adjective. So the noun content is a really generic word. It's not very specific. And you're probably most familiar with it in the context of social media. It means any material or piece of writing or video or music that appears on a website, on YouTube, or on social media somewhere. This is called content. I produce a lot of content on YouTube. Now, if you are happy and satisfied with life, then you are content. The very best way to be. So when it's used as an adjective, the syllable stress shifts to the second syllable, and the first syllable reduces right down, so the vowel sound becomes a schwa. Content. Content. So listen to the difference between those two words. Content and content. Content, content. Are you content with the amount of content that you post on social media? So tell me, how do we pronounce this word here? Because we can use it as an adjective to say that two things are not together, and we say separate. Keep the cheese separate from the meat. And usually you just hear it pronounced with two syllables, separate. But as a verb, separate, we hear three syllables, right? And it means to put things in groups. So, can you separate the red apples from the green ones? Separate. Separate. So let's compare them together. Practice out loud with me. Separate. 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 Now, even though these are different types of words, they do have a really similar meaning, so we can compare them together. I try to separate my work life from my home life. I try to keep my work life separate from my home life. Okay, we're going to end on a tricky one. I'm wondering if you've ever heard this word before and if you know how to pronounce it. But it actually follows a really similar pattern to the previous word, right? As an adjective, we say deliberate, meaning that an action was fully intended or it was carefully considered. It wasn't done by accident. He made a deliberate attempt to embarrass me in front of my boss. Now, as a verb, the pronunciation changes to deliberate. So we've got 4 syllables. The second is the strongest and the fourth is also strong. Da 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 da. Deliberate. Deliberate. So to deliberate is to think really carefully about something and to consider all the different options. So again, the word types are different, but the meaning is quite similar. So deliberate means that something is carefully considered, and to deliberate means that, well, the verb is to carefully consider, right? We don't need to deliberate over how deliberate his actions were. So there you have it. I hope that this lesson highlighted how important pronunciation is, especially vowel sounds in English. Often they're the only thing that separates one word from another. Now, before we finish up, I want to quickly go over the pronunciation of all these words again. So get ready to say them out loud with me. Tear, tear, dove, dove, lead, led, close, close, wound, wound, desert, desert, object, object, content, content, separate, separate, deliberate, deliberate. Awesome work, everyone. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button just down there so that you never miss a English lesson. And I've got more for you to practice with right here. See you in there.